Is the 4-hour work week a scam? How's your wife? As opposed to what? Economist Walter Williams. Point? Everything is relative. Einstein game on point. My goal for this video, demystify the 4-hour work week, give practical action steps and questions directly inspired from the book, and get Tim to comment, base video TMR. So can one say that the 4-hour work week is a scam? Of course not. It's not taxes after all, it's a voluntary transaction. But the premise that most people saying something like this is obviously not saying it's a scam in the actual sense of the word, but more so that it does not hold value or is a sensible investment. Now the 4-hour work week is around $20 or $30, so let's look at some alternatives from the average consumer. Alcohol purchase with meals, $26. Cable TV, $29. Amusement parks, $16. Tobacco, $34. Women's clothing, $60. Men's clothing, $35. Shoes, $21 per month. So is it worth trading one of these for the book or 10 days of one coffee per day? Let's dive into the book. So welcome to the new rich, who are they have others work for them. They do not work for work's sake. They travel as needed, engaging in many retirements throughout their life. They work on their businesses as opposed to in their business, as in they are neither the boss or employee, but the diligent 80/20 owner. They know why they work, as opposed to just work for work's sake. They have a purpose beyond item collection. They think big and they have freedom. Sounds nice, but is it achievable? Now, Tim makes the point that he is not advocating chasing a 4-hour work week for the sake of the 4-hour work week, nor does he advocate any rash actions behind an entrepreneurial sneeze because you have the idea for your new social media website that's totally like Facebook, but way better. No, instead, what the book really comes down to is optimization. People may hate on the title, but would people really buy a book called Optimization? Have others work for you and think big. Yay. So of course the title plays to our desires for the extravagant in the same way you wouldn't buy a book called Improve Your Pectoral Strength Through Progressive Overload. But 405 bench, get hench, and acquire an 8 out of 10 wench. Now we're talking. Reality is negotiable. What's the 4-hour work week optimization and negotiation formula? Deal. D for definition. Get over society's expectations of going to college, getting a job, working for 40 or 50 years, and then travel in a state of decay. Instead, ask yourself, what would you do if you could not fail? Can you do that or start at least taking steps towards doing that? What is your worst case scenario if you were to take any action upon it? So what are you waiting for? Action steps. Define a worst case scenario if you were to get fired from your job. Define what really makes you happy. Is it money, mating, mastery, or momentum? The state of making gains. If you have trouble with this, do a 5-point why in continually asking yourself why you really want something, really delving deep into the 4 M's. Define what you want to accomplish and ask yourself, what is the minimal amount of effort I could take towards that would yield at least some sort of result? Elimination. We collect things. That is the nature of evolving in what seemed to be a scarce environment. However, in 2015, not so necessary, as the show Hoarders so well points out. Ask yourself the following. Does 80% of my pleasure come from 20% of my friends? Who are those friends? What characteristics do I admire about them most? Does 80% of my results, or do 80% of my results come from 20% of my actions? What are those actions? Are those actions tied into my strength? When I have been most successful at something, what was it and how much of it came from my strengths? Where else can I apply the 80/20 rule? at the gym, at my work, with my boss? How? If I were to do just one thing, if I were to get just one thing done today, what would that be and how big of a difference would that make? Action step. Eliminate distractions that don't tie directly into your main goal, hence why it's important to have one. As in, focus on your highest value action first, and any technology, people, or activities that don't tie into that, moderate heavily or eliminate entirely. Never multitask, as it's not even possible in the way that most people want it to be. Of doing something, Instead of doing one thing well, you just end up doing two things poorly and taking longer to go from point A to point B. Automation. An unexamined life is not worth living. Neither is an unexamined business worth running. J. Abraham. Too many people focus on doing everything in their business and not enough time working on their business. Michael Gerber. Point. Tim banks on these concepts in providing us with a bevy of links where any and all work can be outsourced to, but it doesn't stop there. The concept of automation is really about outsourcing the pain points, as in the things you hate doing, the things that would take you the longest when you factor in the procrastination factor associated with that hatred and the opportunity cost of taking your otherwise productive resources, tying back to your 80-20 strength, as in the thing you are awesome at, and forcing yourself to do something you're not so awesome at, which will give you subpar results, not only in the activity you're doing, but the opportunity cost as far as taking up your time you could be allocating to what you're awesome at is also something that needs to be considered. So the action step. Stop giving into the gray zone OCD loop where you are neither relaxing or working. Instead, check your emails, Facebook, social media, forums, whatever it is, check them at scheduled points and allocate a certain amount to them. Either relax or work. Outsource anything you're not good at that ties directly into your goal, or find a partner who has a strength where you lack and become a team. The ideal team generally is somebody with fantastic sales, marketing, product knowledge, and an engineer, somebody to design that product. Don't want to build a blog but love writing? Outsource it or partner up. Don't want to animate videos but love writing, scripting, and following through on them? Outsource the animation or partner up. Outsource and partner up all day. Remember, too many people are too fixated on getting social proof, creating a product, and then making their own platform to put all of this stuff out there. That takes a long time. So it's not working smart, it's just working hard. You just need one of the three. So if you have a product, go to someone with relevant social proof to your niche and use their email list. Or if you have social proof, do the opposite. Or, as the 4-hour work week suggests, be the middleman. You can do neither and still reap the benefits as YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Uber, Airbnb do. No products and at one point no social proof, but they created a platform, they marketed that, and then the people came to them. And the people arose with social proof, with products, and then boom, middleman money. Liberation. Can you work from home? Can you work from somewhere else? Where did you really want to travel but haven't had the opportunity to? One of the major takeaways that I got personally from this book and Fight Mediocrity's video was the mental mind shift of looking at things from a different perspective. Not just boxing yourself into the static, I make XYZ amount, working job XYZ for time investment XYZ. Those things, yes, they should be considered, but there's things that go much deeper than that. And even within all those things are negotiable. But much like getting a higher salary takes good negotiation skills, so too does getting the levers to move on all the other areas. What is the minimal viable product you could put out in whatever pursuit it is that you're interested in? Are you really held back in doing what you wanted, changing your work life, or even changing your job by actual knowledge, effort, and circumstance? Or is it the exact opposite, as in the lack of knowledge, no effort, and no testing of any changes in your current situations. My main takeaways from this book are as follows. Number one, shift your mind. It sounds cliche. Yes, it does. But the value in this book is immense, even if it just to provide useful links for pursuing what really excites the reader most. So many people get caught up on the title, taking it too literally, and not seeing the real applicable steps within the book. All of this comes down to the following cognitive bias. The sunken cost fallacy. People have sunk in a certain amount of time with their friends, in their job, not pursuing their dreams, not consistently getting better, and not looking for ways to optimize their life. And they never stop to question, do I really enjoy these things? What would I be doing if I could not fail? Number two, 80-20 is a very powerful idea, not necessarily for ultimate truth, but for allowing you to engage in willful and selective ignorance while pruning out the waste. In some cases, it may be 60-40. In other cases, it could be as extreme as 99-1. But in almost all cases, it's not as democratic or equal as society would like us to believe, meaning that if you have 5 friends, the amount of pleasure you derive from them, it's probably not 20-20-20. If you have a job, the amount of time you really enjoy on your job, it's probably not, if you work, let's say, 8 hours a day, it's probably not 12%, 12%, 12%, 12%, 12%, 12%. You get it. So just like Fight Mediocrity points out, that a salary is a very small factor by bringing up hours worked, where the money is spent, what the money is worth as far as where you live, and how quickly it depreciates, and stimulating us to go even further by evaluating our work environment, our opportunity costs if we travel a lot to work, because that is not time that you can do anything apart from listening to something. So even if you are technically being productive and listening to some mind-enhancing material, maybe an audiobook, the choices present as are only being capable of maximizing your time in that way. Other things to consider too are stress from work, how it ties back to our original goal, hence again the importance of having one, and why we even want the things we are supposedly chasing. Remember to always do a 5-fold why if it's a big investment. And work, friends, all these things are massive investments, yet we never really stop to think, where is our pleasure coming from? Can I amplify that pleasure, and can I diminish the pain points? 80-20 really points out the inequality of everything. For example, a bricklayer may work 10 times, quote, as hard as Warren Buffett, but yield 1/1,000,000th of what Warren does in a day. There may be people doing extreme diets, extreme workouts that are getting, and they're working 10 times as hard, yet getting 1/1,000,000th of the result as somebody working smart. Vulgar pride and attachment to working hard is a plague just as much as laziness is, because it can destroy the spirit of the person. The person then does not achieve their goals because even despite their hard work, they're not working smart, thus they burn themselves out and it eats them up alive. Whereas a lazy person, they're not even taking any action. To quote Bill Gates, if you want something done, go to the laziest person in the firm and ask them to do it. Why? Because you'll find that they will find the quickest way from point A to point B. Always ask yourself, are you working hard or are you working smart? Is there a better way that you could be doing this? And how much time do you spend in your activity as opposed to working on it? For example, a very simple thing that anybody can do. I believe this was also in the book as an idea, although it wasn't a major theme. I think this was something that I got from him. But in any case, it's a great idea, is to invest. I know this is something he talks about in the 4-Hour Chef. Invest $50 to $100, pay for 1 to 2 hours of an expert's time, and learn all the things to do, all the things not to do, and the counterintuitive trips, or I should say tips and tricks that would expedite your process. That's something that somebody could invest a very minimal time, a very minimal investment as far as monetarily wise, and get a huge return because they can figure out how difficult it's going to be, how much time it's going to take, and bypass a lot of problems that they could have if they didn't get that knowledge to begin with. Always work smart, never work hard. Number 3, Does XYZ tie into my goals? Can I circumvent it or diminish it? No. Can I get someone else to do it and reap most of, if not all of the benefits? Your creativity and willingness to look for alternative solutions will dictate how your life is lived. The only difference between the best and worst chess players is the perception and understanding of choice. Where one does not see a choice, or similarly enough makes the correct choice but doesn't understand the why as to why that's the correct choice, the grandmaster sees the choice and understands the why, doing both. The entrepreneur shifts economic resources out of an area of lower into an area of higher productivity and greater yield. John Baptiste said, "Everything in your life is a resource and should be treated as such. Mindlessly digging without understanding geology and then continually digging, claiming you are working hard, while people unearth all sorts of useful minerals, uncover all sorts of superior methods, and make all kinds of gains, is the best metaphor for how most people live their lives. 2D, stale, repetitive, and 2D, stale, and repetitive in ways that are not yielding any result at all. The 4-hour work week challenges people to look at things in a new way, to question whether or not there are better methods, and to get a better understanding of how a little can go a long way. Not just when it comes to business, but when it comes to all aspects of life. If anything, there's more value in the 8 hours of this book than most people will get through their entire education as far as the way of thinking, which is funny because the audiobook is actually available online. It's about 8 hours. Compared to school, the as opposed to what question, most schools generally tend to be in that area for one day. Ask yourself, pick up this book and really go through it, and then ask yourself, where did you get more value? The templates and the links alone are worth the price of admission, but the possible mental shift, and this is the major point, if actions are taken based upon the knowledge, meaning that if you actually do the things that the 4-hour work week suggests, that's where the potential and the upside is massive. Never mind that when you look at the spending habits of most people and the way they would spend their money, the as opposed to what question, it becomes very evident that even using their own terminology, they are actually scamming themselves. And number 4, avoid the void. Most people think, if only XYZ were to happen to me, if only I could work less, make more, everything would fall into place. And while you may be immediately happier, we all have a baseline of happiness that we tend to return to. And the adaptive and at times seemingly irrationally adaptive part of our brain means that even if we get the things that we think we want, it is often the journey that we find most valuable. The point of this book isn't necessarily to learn AdWords, to get your work week down to 4 hours, or to be a jet setter, although you'll definitely learn how to do that. The point is, optimize your life by reevaluating your friends, your jobs, your goals, eliminating the bunk stuff, partner up or automate things you don't enjoy doing, but have the balls. Have the balls to put out some product, split test it, and then have the balls to continually do that over and over again if it doesn't succeed until the law of averages takes place and you're COing 10K a day, working your 4-second work weeks, and get creative. Remember, reality is negotiable. So learn to negotiate, then lay down the hammer and transcend mortal reality.